Hello, Sam Bisnick here from EndYourBackPainNow.com, and what we're going to talk about in this video is another muscle that's very important to address when it comes to chronic lower back pain, and that muscle is called the multifidus muscle. Now, the multifidus muscle, if we take a look at the spine model here for a quick anatomy lesson, is found on the backside of the spine, and where it goes is it starts on this backside bump on the spine called the spinous process, and it goes down toward the center of the body to the attachment point, these bony protrusions on the outside of the spine called the transverse process. So it goes from the top bone down to the transverse process, and it can go anywhere from 2 to 3 levels down. So the transverse process attachment at, say, L3 may have an origin up here on the spinous process of L1, for example. Now, what the job is of the multifidus is a muscle that helps control segment-to-segment stability in the spine. So it might control very slight motions like side bending to a very, very small motion and small amounts of rotation, just a few degrees in either direction. So depending on which vertebrae is moving. So if I hold my upper body still and I just twist my pelvis left and right a few degrees, the multifidus is going to assist with stabilizing the vertebrae when I'm moving back and forth. So the multifidus is a very, very important muscle in providing a lot of stability to the spine. And essentially, all back pain is a problem with spinal stability. And the multifidus muscles are the most commonly dysfunctional group of muscles in the lower back, secondary to quadratus lumborum, which is probably one of the more important ones. It's kind of 50-50 between the two of those. So the multifidus is important to address, and there's two things that we need to address it with. First of all is getting the multifidus muscles to activate again. And one of the things that has been found through research is the multifidus muscles have a tendency to shrink within 24 hours at the onset of any severe back pain episode. Why this happens, we don't exactly know, but it does have a tendency to lose some of its endurance qualities. So it's important to get the multifidus working again if there's been a back pain episode, and then also to condition it so that it turns on at the right time, and it also has enough endurance to carry out its functions. So in a second, we're going to be looking at the multifidus from an exercise perspective. What can we do? But before we get to that, real quickly, I want to talk also about massage therapy or manual therapy. The multifidus is highly prone to having trigger points in it. And these trigger points, when you compress into them, can refer pain down. And as I mentioned, that the multifidus itself goes 2 to 3 levels down in the spine, but the trigger points can go that much, if not further. So very frequently in practice, I will find trigger points in the upper portion of the lumbar spine that refer all the way down into the sacroiliac joint or even into the glutes. So these trigger points in the lumbar spine can be causing muscle dysfunction in the lower aspect of the spine and the gluteal musculature as well. And trigger points in the glutes can cause problems in the hamstrings and so forth. So it is important to address these very important muscles, the multifidus muscles, and I'm going to show you how to do that now. So here we are to strengthen the multifidus muscle. Now the multifidus muscle, as I mentioned earlier, can assist with small amounts of rotation in the spine, but it also does contribute to side bending of the spine to some degree. Now, one of the easiest ways to help recruit the muscle is to actually imagine drawing your hip up toward your spine. Because as I mentioned, the center of the spine where those spinous processes are and the transverse processes, which are the side of the spine, are at an angle. So therefore, if I try and bring that spinous or the transverse process closer to the spinous process, I will be engaging the multifidus. So an easy way to do this is to do some mini hip hiking, what I call it. So you're going to actually lay down on the ground in a neutral position, and from here, I just open my legs outward to about shoulder width. And if you were just to attempt to gently bring your hip toward your spine, which would be almost a mini side bending motion. If I just try and hike it, you could probably barely even see it on the video. And then let it relax. As I come up, I bring the other side up, just gently hiking the hip up toward the spine, holding for approximately 10 seconds, trying to isometrically contract the muscle and relax, and then alternating from side to side. This is a very minute motion. I'd probably say about a half an inch of motion on each side. So that's one way that we can start to condition the multifidus muscles, particularly when you have pain and there's not a lot of motion that you can do. The next one is a 4-point exercise that if you've been to physical therapy, you're probably very familiar with. And this one works by introducing small amounts of rotation to the spine. So in this position, we're on the hands and knees with a neutral spinal alignment. So we're neither flexed in the lower back or excessively extended. We're right into the neutral position. Hands directly underneath the shoulders, knees directly underneath the hips. Now in this position, if I were to attempt to lift my knee just high enough off the ground to slide a magazine underneath it, so I'll do the right side so you can see it, just high enough, my foot and my knee, and my left hand just high enough to slide a magazine underneath it, my spine is going to go into a rotated position, which is going to require the use of the multifidus muscle. Now, you can tell if the multifidus muscles are having challenges and your general stability if you attempt to do this and you're wobbling all over the place. You should be able to perform this exercise in such a way where it looks like you're barely even moving. This position is usually held for 10 seconds on each side, taking a 10-second rest, switching backward and forth. So, that's how you work with addressing the multifidus muscle. This is Sam Visnick. Again, thanks for watching, and be sure to visit me on endyourbackpainnow.com.